Cupcakes for Democracy.
Yes.
All right. Hi. Welcome to the second day of filming, making videos, and welcome to July 4th, 2026. So, what am I going to talk to you about today? Well, yesterday I think I talked a little bit about how today was discussing the Declaration of Independence, and I thought that's a great topic to kind of go into. My favorite podcaster who I listen to, Heather Cox Richardson, who's a history professor, did a bit of talking about that on Thursday, and I thought that was really cool. So let's start off with, the line that everybody always knows, the couple of, getting a little bit of quotes from the Declaration of Independence, and that is, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with the certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I think a lot of us have heard that line before, especially if we grew up here in the U.S. So, I think that's pretty important. It doesn't say, those born here in the U.S. It says all men, and I mean, if we, bring it to this day and age, all people are created equal. I think they would have gone there with that, but that's my own opinion. In this day and age. Okay, so what are we going to talk about regarding the Declaration? Well, I'll tell you, I read through it last night, decided to do a deep dive into it. And I should tell you a little bit something about myself. I'm not a historian. I'm actually an engineer, a civil engineer. So this is not my area, history or anything like that, politics, none of that kind of stuff. But I feel that we're in a moment where we have to talk about these things and we have to learn about these things because we have been lacking as Americans on these. And I've heard other people, say these lines and repeat them to me and, take quotes from the Constitution and the Declaration. And I mean, not always sure people feel them. And it's interesting that I'm bringing that up because something that I noticed in the last year, you go to baseball games, you go to basketball games. I've done both of those in the last year, taking my son, and I realized that when we are saying the pledge of allegiance, or when we're singing the national anthem, my heart just gets all fired up. Is like they mean a lot more to me. They're more than just words now, and I think that was something lacking before. It means a lot, and I think I want them to be held with, I don't know. I'm having a hard time trying to explain all this, but I think it means a lot that the Constitution, that we have our Constitution, that we have our Declaration of Independence, and it's more than just words for me now. And I think I understand sometimes, I've thought about this, about, people who have, joined the military and stuff like that and what they've gone through and, the stuff that they've had to go through with all of that. And it makes a lot more sense to me now. So, okay, sorry, tangent. All right, so Declaration of Independence. I decided to have some fun with this. I took the Declaration of Independence, fed it into an AI. Sue me, I'm not a big fan of AI, but at the same time, I think it should be used for good. And this is good. Um, Basically, I read through the Declaration, and, I'm not Old English, so, I understood some of it, most of it, but, there's also a bunch of language from back in the day that I didn't understand. And so I had it help me explain some of these things. And what I found interesting about the Declaration is they went through a lot of grievances that, the King of England, the King of Great Britain had, been doing these wrongful things, and they listed all of the things that they were upset about. And I thought that that was interesting, especially because, that is what we're having to go through with right now. We have a government, someone who I think would like to be more of a dictator than a president, and I think we have a party, the Republicans, who are kind of have been giving too much power, and the Supreme Court technically as well too, from everything I've been seeing, that is giving him way too much power, and just allowing him to grow in that power. And I think that that's wrong. And so it was interesting as I was reading through these grievances in the Declaration, and I realized that there's so many similarities to what's happening right now. So I thought I'd kind of go over a couple of them. So what things did they talk about in those? They discussed how back then that he was blocking common sense rules. And I thought that was interesting because, right now, Trump himself has been blocking the Housing Act, which is supposed to make lives better for a lot of people around housing, just so that he could try to get the SAVE Act implemented. He's holding representation hostage, was something that they mentioned about the King of Great Britain. And right now, we're not passing any bills in Congress right now for that very same thing, right? He does not want any bills to be passed unless the SAVE Act is implemented. If Congress, basically votes for the SAVE Act. What is the SAVE Act? That is basically how I see it, is a voter suppression act. It's basically this act that is supposed to make it harder for people to vote. It's something that Republicans have wanted for, who knows how long, but it's been a long time. A large part of my own life. So I thought that was interesting. Another thing that they had a grievance with him was he fires our leaders for standing up to him. And first person that came in mind when I thought about that one was James Comey himself, right? FBI director, or was the FBI director in his first term. Didn't think he was going to be a ball player with himself. Trump didn't think he would be a ball player for him, and so he fired him. And Comey was within his, 4 years out of the 10-year term that he was supposed to have. So, that was probably one of the first big things, red flags that people started seeing. Were like, whoa, this is somebody trying to take more power than they actually have. What else? Rigging a legal system and controlling borders. Well, he's blocked immigration. Perfect examples of that is he's done $100,000, visas. So making it really hard for, people to be able to bring in immigrants to come work here. Has these concentration camps now that he's been putting people into to try to deport them back to their countries, but keeping them in those camps for long periods of time, which, if I understand right, is not right as well too. And it's been interesting that he's also gotten the Supreme Court to help him in canceling temporary protection status for a lot of these immigrants. TPS is actually one of these things. It's been around for a long time. It was one of these things for basically if people are coming to this country because they have hard times in their own countries, wars or disasters, natural disasters as well, so those kinds of things. And it basically gives them the ability to work here legally and be able to contribute and pay taxes to this country being in here. And he's basically trying to get rid of all of them, slowly but surely. I think the latest right now is Haitians and Syrians, I believe, if I remember correctly. I might have some notes on that one somewhere else on here. What else? Legal system, he's ruined the courts. I think I see it as him ruining the courts on this one, with the help of the Republicans. I mean, way back when, right? Mitch McConnell had basically prevented Obama from getting one of his nominees right in before the end of his terms. Politics, and use politics basically to prevent him from getting one in. And then when Trump was in, he basically ended up getting Kavanaugh and Barrett, and that's two. Oh, how many more? I want to say, was that the only two Supreme Court justices that he replaced? Okay, I'm blanking on that one, sorry. Like I said, not a historian, so I don't know. I'm going off of all of my memory on all of this. Okay, third one, military occupation and financial exploitation. So some of the things that they had grievances with back then were related to those. One of them being he keeps troops in our towns. Something that we've seen, he tried to send National Guards to LA, Chicago, Washington, D.C. They're still in Washington, D.C., Portland. Sent them there without the permission of the governors. I think the courts at least held back and prevented him from allowing them to be out in the streets of most of those cities, except for Washington, D.C. He has more leeway in Washington, D.C., so he was actually able to have them on the streets, but in the other ones, he had to keep them on federal properties. But if he had had his way, he would have had them on the streets. So luckily, the courts pushed back on that one. What else? He put military above the law. That was something that they had a grievance with as well, too. And in that one, right now, right, he basically went to war with Iran with Israel's help. And even after 60 days, which is what our laws basically say, he didn't even ask for the permission that he was supposed to get from Congress. And that's mostly because Republicans don't want to even bring it up, even though that is their power to do so. So they're letting him basically continue on this war. And what else? He's done striking on boats in the Caribbean near Venezuela. And has been doing that basically against their laws of the sea that he apparently didn't know very much about this before, but there were laws of the sea that, you know, people wouldn't go around just blowing up people's boats and stuff like that. And he hasn't really given anybody evidence or presented evidence to Congress. I mean, much less us, but even to Congress to show the justifications for these things. They've had secret meetings. They don't allow it to be public. Of course, anytime they go into these secret meetings, Democrats come out saying there's clear evidence that he's doing wrong. And then Republicans come out and they say there's clear evidence that nothing is wrong. And so we don't get a transparent answer from all this. And that's part of the game, right? Keeping things confusing for us. What else? A couple of other things, and that is economic warfare. You know, King was doing it back then. Trump's doing it now with tariffs. No due process. Remember, all men are created equal, and people basically are created equal in this country, and everybody has due process. And he's been trying to strip that away, even from the immigrants that he's trying to deport, and that's wrong. Stirring up internal chaos was something that even the king did back then, and you definitely see that today. Look how he talks about transgenders. Look how he talks about immigration, immigrants. Look how he talks about Democrats, making divides between our country. You know, it was interesting because I was talking to somebody today about how, you know, when I've seen pictures of Michelle Obama and President Bush, you know, they hang out with each other. They, you know, hold hands. I've seen pictures of that. And I'm like, that's unity. That is country over party. They're friends. And we are all friends. Doesn't matter what party we're in, we are all American. And that is first. And that is not something that I see in Trump. I see him stoking division among all of us. And that is un-American. And probably the last thing that he stirs internal chaos is anti-fascism. So talks a lot about that, and how trying to label them as, you know, what they're labeling them as. I don't know if YouTube would, you know, prevent me from putting this video if I start saying, you know, anti, you know what. And, you know, trying to label them as bad people and jail them. And I don't think that that is right either. That's taking our rights away for freedom of speech to be able to go out there and protest against our government. And yeah, that is a bedrock thing for us. Okay, well, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. I have hope. Today was a good day. I had a lot of fun. Spent time with my children. Made a poster saying Happy 4th of July. Went out to a protest and with my Happy 4th of July, and, you know, shouted and with joy and stuff like that, and met people out there, and that was great. Went out to a bridge and cheered on, and people honking, and it was great. And I think that that's what this day is really about, celebrating all of us, and keeping at bay authoritarian regimes. Yeah, great. So hope you are all having a good day. Enjoy your time. Take care. Stay safe.